Sometimes I wish we could go back to a time when things weren't so complicated.
Welcome to the complexity of toilet paper, the podcast that dives into the everyday moments where we overthink, hesitate, or just get stuck.
I'm overthinking. I'm overthinking.
Let's hear it for the toilet paper!
Through honest conversations, unexpected insights, and a whole lot of humor, your hosts Phyllis Martin, Mark Pollock, and Al Emmerich are here to help you roll with it and make your life a little less complicated. One conversation at a time.
That's right, dude. The beauty of this is its simplicity.
Speaking of which, it's time to enter the stall. Put the lid down, or not, depending. Get comfortable, and roll with it.
Oh, worry not, dear friend. It's really quite simple.
This is the complexity of toilet paper. Phyllis just dropped a good one in the stall. Whatever comes out will be a good one. Now, we were talking about the show, but I can't help but think for just a moment that should be like on every stall everywhere. Right? It's like Tony Robbins would appreciate that. Like, imagine just going to a public restroom and it says right in front of you, whatever comes out will be okay. I mean, we have missed the opportunity to create motivational posters for the potty.
I don't think we've missed out. I think we can still do it. That could be our mission.
All right. Phyllis, the show is now over. She has dropped the mic before the show began. Whatever comes out is going to be okay.
I believe I can go back to lounging now. I've given you all you need.
That was the whole show. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, there's no overthinking involved. Whatever it is, it's all good.
So if you've listened to this show, you know that Phyllis and Mark have no idea what's coming out of my mouth to open the show, which is true. That's exactly what just happened. But it's very apropos that we talk about whatever comes out will be okay, because we were thinking about this show, the podcast, The Complexity of Toilet Paper, and all three of us have talked about what we learned in 2025. We shared over the holidays lessons. We also talked about our experiences. But the truth is, we haven't really gone deep into the stall since probably really early on, like maybe the first couple of episodes, meaning we shared a lot about our own backgrounds. We shared things that we learned about each other, all that. And gosh, I mean, this year has been so transformational, or last year, 2025, was so transformational. It was such a juggernaut for each of us in different ways. And we just thought of you all, the folks that have been on the ride with us since we began, as well as new folks that might be joining for the very first time. And this show is dedicated to simplifying the complex one conversation at a time. But there's tons of conversations and things that have been happening in our lives throughout this whole past 12 months and lead up to the day this show drops. And it's like, if we're going to let you into the stall, then let's let you into the stall. Let's share the goods, if you will. Like, what have we really been going through that has become simplified? And because each of us has had our own rocky journey, and but also a beautiful journey. And so there's no, as you well know, as a fan of the stall, rehearsal here. There's no script. There's an outline. And so here's the outline for today's show, Inside the Stall Part 1, which is Mark, Phil, Al, let's peel back the layers of what 2025 brought us to that we really learned, not so much just from the show, but about ourselves. Because what I have found and what you found, Mark, and what you know, Phyllis, is that the things we're going through, everybody else has their own version of it. It's just their own coat of paint, their own paintbrush. And so whatever your version of what we're about to share with you is, if this show and the coming shows with Peeling Back the Curtain with Mark and Phil can bring you some light and simplicity, then we would love to do that. And so, yeah, this is about going deeper. This is the Plunger Show. You see what I did? The Plunger Show?
We heard.
We saw.
Yeah.
Because what does a plunger do, kids?
It unclogs.
It unclogs the toilet. Well, why is the toilet clogged, Mark?
Too much stuff.
There's
stuck.
shit blocking that toilet up.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's that.
Okay.
And so we got to unstick the toilet with a plunger. And that's what we're doing today.
Somebody, Mark, I beg of you, do something.
That's a visual. I just honestly didn't
can't.
need. I just.
Oh,
did
come
not,
on.
I
What are
did
you?
not.
What are you, shy now all of a sudden about plungers and toilets?
No.
You
not at all.
people. You people.
You people.
All right, so here was the deal. First of all,
Here's the deal.
my name is Al Emmerich.
Hi, Al.
I think this is where you say you're Mark Pollock.
I know. The way he said it, he's
You
like,
couldn't
hi.
help it,
It was
could
very
you?
formal. It's like, hi, I'm Al Emmerich.
Okay.
I'm Mark Pollock.
Yo,
And
what's
I'm
up?
Phyllis Martin.
Yes. Owner of the greatest laugh in the history of mankind and womankind and theykind and all kinds. Phyllis, in case you don't know, can laugh on command. Laugh, Phil.
No, we're not doing that today.
Okay, sorry. It just humors me. There it is.
And there it is.
So the deal was, let's surf through these waters, maybe a little uncharted, and more importantly, let's. I'd break the ice. I'd crack the porcelain. I'll start first, and then the next show will be either Mark or Phyllis, and so on and so forth. So there's going to be 3 versions of this show where we crack the porcelain, unplunge the toilet, and dig deeper. No more analogies, I swear.
I think
maybe.
yes.
Beat
No
that
more.
one.
I mean, it's front loaded with analogies. So that's cool, though. That's cool. We got them out there. We can use them throughout the whole show.
Yeah, and we'll still maybe we'll go into the stall for the roll up. I don't know. Well, it depends on you guys how you feel.
Hey, whatever comes out is
okay.
okay.
I say let's get started.
All right. So
Didn't we get started already?
No,
I don't know.
started,
I don't
started.
think so.
Oh,
We
I
were
see.
preluding. We were preluding.
Preluding?
Yes. All right. So how do you want to do this? You guys have a question, or do you want me just to go ahead and drop a quick expose whatever. Preface.
Go ahead, Phil.
I was going to say, let's drop like the framing question. What is it that you've learned? What have you been able to simplify, decomplexify in 2025? What would you like to share that might be helpful? Any of those things.
Yeah. Well, welcome to 14 hours of COTP. Yeah.
It's the 24-hour show.
Right,
We're here
exactly.
all
I'm going to
day.
need to order some snacks. Hold, please.
I know, right?
Well, let's just start with let me just go for the jugular right away.
Okay.
What I had to come face to face with in 2025 was my own value. As you well know, the search for helping others define the greater value within themselves, which is to say more simply, to lift other people up and create positivity for them and help them see their amazing wonderment. I realized that I had lost track of my own, meaning I was looking in the mirror and intellectually I knew, you're worthy. You're doing cool stuff. You're very fortunate. You're blessed because I wrote this code, this narrative in my mind, which is true. I have brought a great deal of value to other people in the world. And it's a lot easier for the doctor to prescribe than it is sometimes to take their own medicine. I came face to face with that because I went through a relationship that ended after 5 years, which had come after a marriage that had that had lasted for 20 plus years. I came to a crossroad in what I wanted to do with value mapping, while at the same time trying to sew up some financial foundation with a job. And the job search was brutal. Hadn't done that in a very, very long time. And all of that circled around to things that I hadn't kept promises to myself about, that I began to question whether or not I could keep those promises. And as a result, got really upset with Al and lost my way. And so everything became more complex. Everything became an overthinking. Everything became, well, let me understand this, because that's the way I felt if I could just understand it, it would automatically get better. But what I realized was, if you don't know what to understand, you're just rolling down a hill. And so it really became, what am I supposed to be asking myself? What am I supposed to be doing? And the more I thought, the harder it got. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I wonder how there's that intersection between you helping others, but getting lost in that comes together. So how did you help folks find such clarity in their value, yet get so lost? I think the how of maybe that happened, if you know how that happened, because you so clearly were able to help people understand their strengths, understand their own vision, their own purpose, their own impact. Yet the more of you that you gave to that, the further away from yourself you found yourself.
I go back to the doctor that can prescribe the medicine for others because it's either his or her passion, or it's clinical by route. And so it was others reminding me, you've got to turn that on yourself, Al. My son, Dylan, for example, telling me, Dad, use your own shit. And I'm like, yeah, but that's when I realized, wait a minute, for a moment, I was doubting that process. I mean, value mapping is a process, right? But it wasn't about value mapping. It was about, I was taking hits, and I didn't have the confidence in myself, but it was other people, you, Mark, you, Phyllis, reminding me, dude, you got this. You have to just keep peeling back the layers and stop being so hard on yourself. But you also have to execute. I don't know if that answered.
I'm going to throw in a different something. I don't know. I often wonder, Al, and this is, I feel true for all of us, but I'm going to stick with you because we're talking about you right now, and we're talking about value. And I think sometimes for all of us, our value gets intertwined with how we perceive others' value of us. So the job search was brutal, which is can be, I'm not saying it's true, but can be interpreted as a lessening of one's value. I think I have everything that this job seeker is looking for. I'm getting passed over. I'm making it to the final two. The answer is still no at the end of the day. I just came out of 2 relationships, gave everything I had, thought things were one thing, turned out to be something else. And I wonder, because I'm projecting slightly, but I feel in some ways this is the work for all of us, and particularly those who tend to overthink or overcomplicate or overcomplexify things, that there's an unnecessary mirroring that happens. And we let somebody else's impressions of us or judgment of us or the decision they make that impacts our life determine our value, even if it's for half a second. And in those half seconds, a lot of things get added up that just aren't true. And for you, watching you go through this over the past year, it was most lovely and rewarding to see you at the end of the day say, no, just wait a second. This is who I am. And whether you think it's right or not is irrelevant because I value myself.
Yeah.
And there's no way for you to get there. I say this all the time without going through the dark, murky journey.
Well, yeah. So I think 100%. And that the simple answer is it began when I started letting go of what I can't control. Mark, it began when I started realizing what I couldn't control. It began when, and I'm literally ripping pages out of Tony Robbins, some of his work and Brendan Burchard's work, who were seminal in my journaling and my thought process. It was like, what about the gratitude for the things that I have around me that are working? The gratitude for the deep, deep friendships, the gratitude for the people who were standing right by my side, the gratitude for the people who showed up even when I felt down, the gratitude for the people who, like you said, Mark, in a past episode, Al, while you were having a tough year, you were standing up for us. You were there. But the seminal thing, if I had to just simplify it, is what the hell can you really control, Al? I can't control. I can only control my choices. I can only control my decisions. I can only control how I show up, how I respond versus react. And acknowledging that, writing it down, realizing that I was. Now, don't get me wrong. The murky that Phyllis you're referring to for me was, well, why aren't you executing on some of those things that have to be executed on? Whether it was a financial decision or a get of this out. But I was writing all these scripts in my mind, if you will. I was chasing, like, doing some great work, right? Holding retreats and doing all those things, applying for jobs and all that. But I wasn't focused, and I was walking into all these things, truthfully, not all of them, but a lot of them from fear. From fear that I was going to lose or wasn't going to be successful, which if you know Al and you're listening to this podcast, you're probably going, wow, that doesn't sound like you, Al. But you're right, Phyllis, that's the war we're all having every moment. That's the war that we hear guests on our podcast having. It's that man in the mirror or the man in the arena, Teddy Roosevelt's speech. Be that as it may, that's what it boils down to, I think, Mark, is what Phyllis said, is that I had to realize what I could control. I had to realize the gratitude that was surrounding me, and I had to realize what was it I wasn't executing on that mattered. Those were seminal wake-up moments. Because I had put value mapping this is real deep stuff, friends, but I had put this thing called value mapping, which is my life's work, helping people unlock the greater value within themselves. But I had made that about the thing. But the thing that was behind it, thank you, Myron Pinkham, for telling me this years ago, and I didn't hear it and see it. He's like, Al, you are. That is you. It's you first, and whatever this thing you created will follow it. But I was like, no, I got to create this thing. And the thing became the thing versus me taking care of Al. I was caring more of taking care of the thing, doing the thing, making the thing work. And so until I recognized that Al was enough, started driving Uber, started doing ghost tours down in St. Augustine, doing a pirate ship cruise, having to rub some dimes together to financially meet my responsibilities, that I was like, oh, wait a minute. You're at the core of this and you have to accept that, and it's okay.
Well, doesn't it always boil down to, or does it always boil, to me, it always boils down to this truth and there's like a fallacy and there's a truth. And we are human beings. We are not human doings. But so much of the world that we live in is about how much we do or how well we do it or what are we going to be doing next. And I think watching you over the past year, having to take some steps backwards and doing some things that you never thought you would have to do at this point in your life, while albeit humbling, brings you back to we are human beings. We need to be.
And that statement right there, Phil, like even when you said it in one of the episodes, I don't know that I saw myself as someone who didn't prescribe to that, right? Meaning, yes, of course we're human beings. And yet, some of my thoughts were fears about what other people were going to think about Al. Oh, if Al gets a job, or if Al doesn't do this, is they're going to think he's a failure. And, oh no, Al, you can't think that. I can't think that. That's just like too egotistical. But no, that's very human. And so I had to learn to accept, I think, as well, that this isn't about failure. It's about just being the best version of Al, no matter what you do. And the thing is, if I was talking to my friends, as I was talking to friends, you guys included at times, it was like, I'm prescribing that medicine to other people, but I couldn't take it myself. I just couldn't see it.
Yeah. I think what resonates to me on what you're saying is where you put value. And what it sounds like to me is in the beginning of the year, what was really important was how people saw you, not just how you saw yourself. And I think a lot of people do that. They're surrounded by friends. You said it. You had to be grateful for all your friends. However, the one person who didn't offer you the job took more of the focus than the 40 people who love you. And it was a chase after the one. People do it in relationships, right? You know, the old adage, the girl doesn't want to date the guy who actually really wants to date her. She wants to date the guy who doesn't want to pay attention to her. And so you had a journey of needing kind of this validation from people that you really didn't need validation from. And value came from understanding what they didn't see in you. And I think when you let that go and you said, well, I can give ghost tours, I can drive Uber, I don't care. I think the other side of that is when you went through everything that you've gone through, and I don't necessarily mean to project, maybe this is just more my story, is you kind of lose the definition of who you are. So who are you? If you're not value mapping, then who is Al? And I think then in 2025, the journey of redefining who you are as a person, and that means to me, well, what do you like to do? How do you like to interact with people? What do you want to do for work? How can you make money? What activities are important to you? And so as you've aged and changed, and relationships have changed, and jobs have changed, and the way you interact with people and the way that you do your business, it was a push for you to figure out who you actually are as a person. And I think that was more the journey than anything else, was defining who you are. And we hear it in our guests too, like with Lori and her son. She had to figure out who she was with a diabetic child, right? Maul had to figure out who he was in the market as a poet. Who is he? Tyler had to figure out who he actually was in order to battle all of the things. And I think it was your turn. It was your turn to figure out who you are.
So yes, and yes, Mark. I want to retract back to Phyllis when you first started talking about, in response to what I just said. Immediately, the episode with Danny Johnson popped up.
Me too.
The focus on when Danny Johnson, he was our comedian who was on a few episodes ago, and he talked about how hard it is to not focus on the 1 or 2 or 5 people in the audience not laughing. Meanwhile, you've got a whole audience full of people. And Mark, you added to that, right? And that's that self-doubt. That's that self-recrimination. And I think it's almost like we set up I'm not going to stop talking about we. I'm going to say I. I'm so good at the positivity. I'm so good at the self-talk. I'm so good at triaging my own crisis that I allowed that positivity to take hold. Also, I didn't want to admit that, oh, yeah, I was afraid of what people are going to think about me. I remember at times saying, oh, I don't care what people think about me. And my family used to say, oh, that's bullshit. We all think, yeah, you do. And I'm like, then it's like, okay, well, so I'm going to change the question. What do I think of me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, what do I think of me as a result of where I am at this point in my life? And go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say it is what you think of you, but it's surrounded by what you do versus who you are. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, it totally was. I placed, other people saw it. You guys saw it. You would say, but so back to, I don't know if I'm retreading the tires, stop me, because I don't want to be redundant here. But when I was driving Uber, when I was doing the ghost tours, which I still do, they're fun down in St. Augustine. When I was doing the pirate ship, whatever. When I was doing the stuff that was just helping me make some money so I can supplement my income and blah, 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 I was also doing keynotes. I was also delivering great value to folks. It wasn't until I saw it was what Myron had said, that was Al in the middle of there. Al's the core there. He's still the person that's delivering the value no matter what I was doing. I had to see that to say, hey, I can accept that it's me and I'm okay with me because I'm showing up and I'm enjoying myself and I'm helping others. I'm still living the thing that's important to me. And it took me a little while, but I didn't realize that quote unquote shame piece, because that's what it was. Part of it was shame. Until I started feeling comfortable telling people, hey, I'm doing this. Now I'm on a podcast telling thousands and thousands of people, yeah, sure, what I was doing was this, but I also did this and that. Screw it. Hey, meet Al. And that's what I feel about 2026. I feel like the liberation is maybe for the first time in my life. Maybe for the first time in my life, I'm comfortable with who Al is and giving Al to the world, because no matter what, this is what you get. This and I'm okay with that. I already knew I was going to show up for people. I've shown up for people my entire life. I will never not show up for you, Mark. I will never not show up for you, Phyllis. My friends who know me, I will never not show up for them. But when is Al going to show up for Al? And it wasn't until Al, when am I going to show up for myself? Just trying to get rid of using third person. When am I going to show?
I was wondering who we were talking
Yeah,
about.
I know.
some mysterious man named Al.
Yeah.
Al.
We laugh about that, but do you know how powerful that script is?
Oh, and it's got to be incredible.
No, I mean
Yeah.
on a negative side, like me
Yeah.
being able to, and I'm sure there's a psychology term for it, but me being able to say, well, when Al does this, and it was, I don't remember, Mark, you said it to me.
Yeah.
You said, do you realize how many times when you're talking, you talk about yourself in third person?
Yeah.
And I said, no,
Yeah,
Al doesn't.
Yeah, I know. Right. It's kind of what. Yeah. I don't know the medical term, but yeah, it's almost like you had to become two different people. And that other person did all these wonderful things, and they brought value, and they did these keynotes. And then there's this other Al, which is the true Al. But the two have to come together, and you're just Al. And I think that's how our conversation went was, there's this hero in your mind named Al. You just happen to share the same name, and he goes and does this. But what I'm really encouraged by is that you're bringing this avatar and actually kind of getting rid of it and just becoming you.
So, Al, in the process, you're on the other side of it now. And it's interesting how everything kind of culminated as we were transitioning from one year into the next year.
Oh, yeah.
So what are you taking with you, or what have you brought with you into 2026 that will help you simplify some components or portions of your life?
The first thing is less is more. Less is more. And that is a universal command and demand and promise I've made to myself. And that applies to every aspect, my task list, my focus, my habits, my relationships, my work. Less is more. And of course, the irony of our podcast and the journey we've been on and the topic and the theme of our podcast is not lost on me. So less is more is what I'm carrying in. That's the first thing.
I want to pause there just real quick. When you say less, just so other people who are listening to the show and they're like, I want to I've heard less is more for a million years. What's that mean? What's less in your relationship? What's less in your task list? What is that?
Thank you for that. Less. Let's first talk about habits, functionality, process, getting stuff done, or as I say, GSD, getting shit done. I love making lists, but I make lists that are far too long. And I end up not getting the list done, or I don't even sometimes get the things that are most important done. So less is more in the sense of the volume, and less is more in the sense of discrimination. It's like the movie title, Everything All at Once. Everything's important, but what absolutely has to be done. And fortunately, I have a tool that I can use, some of my own. There's I'm a big fan of James Clear's Atomic Habits. But whatever the tool is doesn't matter, because if you're still putting 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, no matter what tool you're using, you're not going to get through it. And so I have to say less is more. In relationships, I give, and I will continue to give. But I will give to the point that I don't take care of my own quote unquote needs, time-wise or whatever, because I'd rather pick up the phone and talk to Phil for half an hour or buzz with Mark. Well, that's great. And Mark's going to love that, and Al's going to love that. But there was something else that was more important that technically needed to be done. And so I don't have to be everywhere for everybody all the time. I need to be there for Al so I can be the best version of Al when I do show up with Mark, Phyllis, or whoever, whether it's socially or otherwise. Does that make sense?
It does.
Less is more is I've started this incredibly new job. I have to be there. I have to show up for that job and that role and give them an incredible value. So less distraction, more focus. But then that time that I have to focus on writing the book, on the keynotes, well, less is more in the sense of, all right, well, if you've got X amount of time, you're going to have to focus on less things. And I can't, I'll forget this if I don't mention it now. It's the rule of compounded interest. It's something that I've struggled with my entire life because I'm such an in the moment person. And I don't remember if we talked about this in a past episode or not, Mark, but I was reading The Psychology of Money, the book, The Psychology of Money. And there was this whole piece in there about the concept of compounded interest, which applies to far more than money. Mm-hmm. And for me, I live in the moment. I love the moment. I bring other moments to people, and I love that. But if I'm killing the future opportunities that are more important to me because I'm filling the moments with too many other distractions, then I'm never going to experience that long-term goal of getting that book done, of merging the shows I want to do, blah, 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 blah. So compounded interest is like, do what you got to do. Less is more, small little steps and bites.
Yeah. Mark, I'm so glad you asked that question. And Al, I'm really glad that you answered that question because behavior change, like knowing what behavior needs to be changed and actually understanding what you have to do to make that happen is where the rubber meets the road. It really is. So I'm really glad that you both asked and answered the question. That's the hardest part.
Well, thank you. And this goes out to anyone who's achieved success early. And this is something I want to share. I don't mean it braggadociously or battery on the shoulder, kind of like, oh, look at me. But many people don't realize, unless they've seen me speak or one of my videos, I tell the story. I literally checked 4 of the 5 boxes of dreams I had by the time I was 24. I wanted to be in radio. That was a dream of mine. I was in radio at 16 and working in radio for over a decade, professionally. Top-notch morning shows, production companies, all that stuff. I wanted to own my own company. I did by the time I was 23. I owned my own production company. Once I had gone through that, I wanted to be on television. I was on TV at the same time I was on radio. I used to be on the Big 8 morning show, WAPE, and I'd go to do the dog track announcing, and I was TV host, and I was like, I'm 23 freaking years old. I'm on the top-rated morning show, and I'm on TV. Holy crap. Like, oh, so this is the way life is. It just happens like that. And then next was I wanted to be married and have kids. Check that box by 28. So now I'm not even 30, and 4 of the 5 main goals in my life have already been achieved. And yet I wanted more and more and more. The one thing was this path to super uber financial security. But as an entrepreneur, I kept taking risks and doing my things, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, I rewired my brain to believe that it would just automatically happen. When I needed to, pennies would fall from the sky. When I needed to, someone would sweep in and save the day. When I needed it to happen, I would overcome. And so I've realized heading into this new fresh year that nothing's forever and nothing's guaranteed. And I could say that I knew that intellectually, but it's almost like being an addict. I got addicted to the notion that no matter what, everything was going to be okay. Something else would just happen. And I realized that in doing so, I was not living fully in the moments that I was in. I wasn't always fully present to appreciate, which, by the way, is one of the other goals, not goals, but it's one of the other commitments and promises to myself. Because if I'm doing less to do more, I'm going to appreciate the thing that I'm doing or the people I'm with or the moments I'm in more. I don't want to not appreciate this show because I'm thinking about what's next. I don't want to look past the moment. I don't want to be pouring the frickin' waterboarding myself going, oh, you're going to be okay, Al. Don't worry about it. You'll survive. You'll pull out a snorkel. You'll be fine. I want to appreciate those moments. And so, yeah, I mean, I had a lot of really wonderful things happen, and I've lived a life that many people would dream to have. And I want to give that to people and share that with people, but damn it, I need to appreciate it myself and stop and go, hey, smell the roses, dude. Nothing in life is guaranteed, and you've been blessed.
Yeah. It's also what your story tells me too is, I was listening to this priest, and he said, God puts you in situations for what's next. So when David needed Goliath to be the king, right? So he put an obstacle in front of David. He just didn't make David king. He put Goliath in front of him, and he had to kill Goliath to become king. And he gave a whole bunch of other examples, and I don't want to butcher it. And I'll find it, and I'll put it in the show notes or something as a link. But I think when it's time for us to take that next leap, it's not going to be because it's easy and it just falls in our lap. It's because we've got to overcome something, and then we get there. And, sometimes that thing that we have to overcome might take a day. It might take a decade. And it seems to me that whatever this thing that is next for you, this was the thing that you had to kill to get there.
Well said, my friend.
Undoubtedly. And without going completely overboard in the story, and respecting others' privacy too, the right people step forward because they truly love you and care for you. The breakup that I went through, that person knew that this is what she needed, but also what I needed. Mm-hmm. Right? And I remember when it happened, I said to her, this is the best thing you could have ever done for me but that feels the worst. Because deep down, I knew that had to happen. And so to carry your analogy on, I'm able to see how others stepped forward to help me slay my Goliath. Mm-hmm. Right? Dylan, my son, asked me, he's like, Dad, when I turned 58, he's like, what are you most proud of besides your family and all that? And I was like, well, you want a deep answer? You want the stereo? He's like, no, give me your typical dad mumbo jumbo deep bullshit. And I said, and I mean this 100%. I am proudest of the fact that I run fearlessly into the mirror. It is a dangerous place to go, and it has caused me massive overthinking. And it is one of the reasons this show exists, because it's what drove me to have that conversation with you, Phil, when you just said, what you said, and boom, everything was easy. Same thing with you, Mark. But at least I know no matter what, I'm going to step into that mirror, and I'm not afraid of the reflection anymore. I'm not going to question the reflection. I'm not going to beat the hell out of the reflection. I'm not going to tell it how bad it is or how good it is. I'm just going to be with it because and so I'm glad that I didn't have to overcome, because I've always been willing to step into the reflection through meditation, through therapy, through journaling. But just because you're looking at the reflection doesn't mean you can actually see clearly. And I think that's where I am right now. That I won't miss a giant coming at me again, to use your analogy.
Yeah.
We do it with this show, by the way. Yeah. We do it with this show. It's one of the reasons this show is beautiful, I think. the background stuff that we figure out, that we talk about. Each of us carries our own version of this, which is why I can't wait to dive into your brains and hearts. But anyway, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
That's difficult. That's difficult stuff. But the beautiful part is it's relatable. And I'll say, whether this offers comfort or not, you're not alone. There's so many people, probably a majority of people, who are dealing with exactly what you have felt and have gone through. And maybe the stories are different. Maybe the way that they got there is different. But the feeling that looking in the mirror and it's clouded and you don't know the reflection that's looking back, and you don't even know what you want that reflection to look like. If you were to clear off the fog off the mirror and you go, there it is. A lot of folks don't know what they want that image to look like looking back at them. And you're starting to clear off that mirror. But when you do have it fully clear, I feel as if based on this conversation, you're going to know exactly what you're looking for in that reflection back.
I can already start to feel the traction of putting these things into place. And my ask of you two is to continue. It's my work to do, but to continue to hold me accountable, to continue to challenge when these things, when Goliath shows up, because you guys know me, it's inside and out. We're soulfully connected prior to, during, and wherever will forever be. And so I am grateful. I am so deeply grateful for the two of you, and I'm grateful for this experience. And if you're listening to this still, which, thank you. Welcome.
Maybe not.
Welcome to my smelly closet with dirty underwear and nasty socks.
Oh, geez.
But no, if you stepped into the stall today and you hung out, I hope you got something valuable. I hope you realize you are not alone. And I hope you realize the beautiful things that are ahead of you if you tackle, as Mark said, your Goliaths. Because at 58, I don't remember the last time I was this excited about my own life.
So what is, you've shared less is more and the things, the gratitude and other things that you're going to do. Knowing what you know now and the conversation that we just had, what advice would you have given to yourself at 30? Yeah.
Oh, wow, Mark. I didn't see that one coming. The advice I would give to myself at 30, which I pray that I would be able to figure out how to take it, because I thought I did and I didn't. Stop and smell the roses. Be present. Be present in those moments and don't chase. That's the term I've adopted, is I have chased a lot. And when you chase a lot, that's why less is more is so important to me. So the first piece of advice is be present and stop chasing. The second advice is tomorrow can wait if you know what you're waiting for. I was enamored with the high of owning my own company. Not just because I loved the work in advertising and I got to be a spokesman. I mean, I loved, as I love today, my work. I mean, it was just like I was a kid in a candy store. Every day was joy. I mean, living my dreams was just freaking great. And I had an incredible wife and kids, and they supported me, and friends supported me. But I couldn't wait to do it all. And I did it all without the concept of the compounded interest, that if I had done 20% less, I might have some other things in my life now that are more important to me than I ever thought they could be, both from a financial standpoint as well as just experiences and things like that. And then the third thing is take up meditation and journaling. I didn't do that until after my divorce. It was a coping mechanism that I never realized would become the mainstay of my life in 2019. I mean, in 2019, July to be exact, I actually did a post on this on LinkedIn about Headspace. It's when I began. At the same time I was doing Headspace, I was using Brendan Burchard's thought book for high performance planner for my journaling. And to this day, there's thousands of pages. And so I would tell Al to start journaling and meditating at 30. Tell myself.
Thank you.
We closing up, Phil, or do you have one pending?
No, I think we're closing up.
Wherever you are in your journey, man, I hope you have a Mark and a Phil in your stall holding a roll of toilet paper to wipe away the tears and anything else that comes out that's okay.
Oh,
you thought I was not going to forget that? Yeah!
oh, no.
That is how we wrap up Some Time in the Stall. Inside the Stall, version 1 is done. Peace out. This is the complexity of toilet paper.
You say toilet paper?
Everything complicated. One big medieval mess.
I'm overthinking. I'm overthinking.